I'm Anil Kumar, and in this video we will understand two methods of solving inequalities. We will solve for inequality f of x greater than g of x. We are given graph for two different functions, that is f of x, parabola opening upwards, g of x is the other parabola opening downwards, right? So one of the methods is using graph. Now graph is given to us, so from the graph we can actually read the solution. So when we say f of x is greater than g of x, what we say is that we'll compare the y values for a given x value. So if I take up, let's say 1, then f of x is 1, but g of x is 3. So f of x is less than g of x, right? If I take a value of minus 1, f of x is 1 and g of x is negative, right? So f of x is greater. In fact, what you notice here is that any value to the left of 0, f of x is higher, or any value to the right of 2, f of x is higher, correct? And so we get two solutions for this particular question of f of x being greater than g of x, and we can say when x is between minus infinity to 0, or it is from 2 to infinity, that f of x is greater than g of x. So graphically, by comparing the y values, you can easily find the solution, correct? So that's one method. Now we will discuss algebraic method. Now in algebraic method, we need to have equations, and then we can solve for f of x greater than g of x, right? So first we should know what is f of x, and then only we can find it, right? So let's use the graph to find the equation. So from the graph, f of x is equals to, vertex is at 0, right? So it is x square graph, and a value is, if I move 1 unit to the right, 1 up, right? So if I place 1, 1 as my point, so x square is my answer, right? So f of x is x square. To find g of x, we can again use the g of x graph. So for that g of x, let's see the vertex. Vertex is at 2 and 4, so I get my x minus 2 whole square plus 4. To find the value of a, we can select a point. Now if I move 1 unit to the right, 1 down, so a is minus 1, correct? So it is negative 1, which I can actually simplify and write down this equation as x square, expand this, minus 4x plus 4 plus 4, that gives us minus x square plus 4x minus 4 plus 4, or I could write this as minus x square plus 4x. So that becomes my equation for g of x. Well, you could have also utilized these two factors, correct? So in that case, x is one factor, x minus 4 is the other factor, and taking point on the vertex will give you a value, right? So you could write in factored form also. Now anyway, first step is done for us, that is, we got the equation. You could get either way you like. Now let us solve for the inequality f of x greater than g of x, right? Remember, we can also rearrange this, and we can write this as f of x minus g of x greater than 0. Both are same things, right? So let us use f of x minus g of x greater than 0 and then solve. So we get x squared for f of x, right? Minus g of x is minus x squared plus 4x, right? Greater than 0. So let's open the bracket and simplify. So we get x squared plus 2x squared, x squared minus 4x greater than 0. So that is 2x squared minus 4x greater than 0. So we can factor this. So 2x is common, and we get x minus 2 greater than 0. So you can, from here, we are looking for positive value for this particular function, 2x times x minus 2 greater than 0. So to solve such an inequality, we can actually use a couple of methods. One is you can graph it, right? So 2x means 1, 0 here. x minus 2 means second 0 here. So if you graph this, you'll kind of get, I'm doing a rough draw. You can see from here it is positive in these intervals, and therefore we get the same solution, correct? Now let us do interval method to solve this question from this inequality. So we'll use intervals. Now this is a very popular method used for solving inequalities. So in this method, what we make table of values, kind of table, right? So we'll analyze the intervals which are formed because of the zeros or discontinuities at times, correct? So in this particular case, we have zeros at 0 and 2. So we'll say this is at 0 and this one is at 2. Now these zeros divide our plane in intervals, right? So the intervals are from minus infinity to 0, this one is from 0 to 2, and then from 2 to infinity. So we'll take a test point in these intervals. Test point on the left side of 0 could be 1 minus, between 0 and 2 could be 1, between 2 to infinity could be 3. And let's analyze our factors. The factors are 2x and x minus 2. So if I substitute minus 1 here, what do I get? I get negative value, positive values for 3 and 1. In x minus 2, minus gives me negative value, 1 will give me negative value, but 3 will give me positive value. When I multiply two negative values, what do I get? When I multiply two negative values, I get positive value. So here I get positive value. In this case negative, and in this case positive. We are looking for greater than 0. That means the intervals are these two. Means these two are our intervals. Correct? And therefore we get our solution. That is, f of x is greater than g of x in the interval minus infinity to 0 and from 2 to infinity, which is exactly same as we found earlier, correct? So that is how you can solve this question algebraically. I hope it helps you to understand the method. Both these methods are very popular. Go through them once again, try to understand. Thank you and all the best.